Hello, everyone. I'm Teresa. We're going to get started in just a minute. I'm curious to know in the chat feature how everyone's doing. Maybe you write what your name is, where you're from. I'm very curious to know what are some exercises you've been doing at home. Again, I'm Teresa. I'm one of the physical therapists from Boston University, and I'm so happy today to be with you to talk about setting up for success at home. How can we create an exercise program, and what would be the best for us? So in general, up until 5 or 6 weeks ago, a lot of us were getting outside for exercise classes, walking with friends, maybe getting together with the family, being physically active, doing shopping, errands in the community. But now we're at home, and we're doing that to stay at home so we can stay safe. And now that we are at home, how can we keep exercise going? Well, exercising at home is not new. Now, this is a picture from the Jack LaLanne show from the 1950s. And he was set up in his living room with some open space and a chair. However, exercising at home might be new for us. And so it's very understandable to have questions about how to get started, what to do, perhaps feel a little bit overwhelmed. But let's start and break this down with some considerations. The first one is, who is the exerciser? Maybe that's you, maybe your spouse, maybe your parent, another family member, a friend. And what's going to be important for them, what's going to be interesting for them, those kind of personal considerations will make a big deal in terms of planning the exercises and what's going to really work. Another consideration is the type of exercise. Many different types of exercise, but what's going to be best for you, what's going to be relevant, what's going to be interesting. And that kind of type of exercise leads us into kind of the third level of consideration, the home environment. Based on the type of exercise, what space will we need? What will the surface be like? Do we need any modifications for different positions? And how can we manage distractions? So let's start with the exerciser. Of course, everyone is different, but we do have some things in common. And these are some general recommendations I think are applicable to all of us as we're exercising at home. Let's start from the bottom up. And footwear, I think, would be the biggest consideration because it might be so different. It might be typical for us in the house not to wear shoes, or we might wear slippers, or we have house shoes that are typical and easy to slide into. We might just be comfortable wearing socks. For exercise at home, it will be important to have footwear that is secure for us so we won't slip out of it and there won't be a chance of coming out of our shoe or anything like that. The same idea as it applies to clothing, where we want to be comfortable. And for some people, regular clothing they're wearing at home now is fine for exercise. For other people, maybe it's not. So you want to just be comfortable and have clothing that allows you to move freely. Some other aids may be applicable, maybe not, but perhaps it's not your way to wear your hearing aids at home, but you would if you went outside. It would be quite helpful to have hearing aids if what you're doing is listening to an exercise class. The same thing with glasses. Maybe this is applicable. So you just want to make sure whatever outfit you have, especially the footwear, is going to be secure, let you move freely, and kind of give you the best advantage at home. There's one person I'm working with now who tells me when he gets ready for exercise at home, he gets dressed as if he's going to the gym. He knows he has everything he needs, he feels comfortable, and he said that puts him in kind of a mindset of exercise for home. I have another person that I'm working with for whom tying shoes is difficult. So once her shoes go on for the day, she's going to do everything she needs with her shoes on, because when the shoes come off, that's difficult. So that kind of makes a difference for her and when she does her exercise at home. Another separate but important category is hydration. It might have been typical for you to take a water bottle with you to some of your classes, and it might not be your same way to drink as much water at home. When you're exercising at home, you might need a water break more typically than, say, a regular non-exercise day. And you might be thankful you have your water bottle with you. Some other exerciser considerations, again, in the category that everyone's different. And in this case, some things are certainly unique just to you. Just for example, what is going to work the best for you if you're the exerciser? Do you have a best time of day when exercise appeals to you? Are you on a medication schedule where, for example, you might have a certain time of day where you know you feel better and you move better? that may be the most ideal time of day for your exercise. And a big consideration is, what do you enjoy? A certain type of exercise, a certain style, a certain class? Are you someone that really benefits from having music in the background and just feels like your body wants to move? So all these considerations are going to be important to help designing a home exercise plan. But it leads us into the next type of category of the actual exercise. And a common question that we get all the time is, what is the best exercise? And the answer for that is, it's going to be a little different for everyone, but the best exercise is one that's safe, enjoyable, and challenging, but that's a just right challenge for you. And that's certainly going to be different for everyone. Generally speaking, these are some broad categories of exercise. And if we consider the categories of exercise, it might help us kind of get further into what things do we want to keep in mind for exercising at home. I also definitely want to indicate that some exercises span more than one category, but I just want to use this as a general framework for consideration. For example, aerobic style exercise might be done for a certain amount of time. Maybe you know you're going to march in place for 5 minutes. With this style of exercise, it's often typical that we know we're going to start breathing harder. That's the goal of that exercise. That gives us the benefit. We know sometimes we use something called the talk test, and this kind of helps us just get a sense of the intensity of aerobic exercise. So you know if you're exercising, you might feel like you're breathing a little harder. In the talk test, you'd be breathing hard enough that you'd still be able to talk, but you wouldn't be able to sing necessarily. So it gives us an idea of what style, how much intensity with the aerobic exercise. Well, based on that kind of exercise, what might we need at home to support us? Maybe it's just a chair that's nearby so we can rest after we've done some of our aerobic exercise. Maybe we would need a water break. If we're sweating, maybe a towel is helpful. So giving just some consideration to the type of exercise will help us get set at home. Just to cover a few of the other broader categories, with the strengthening-based exercise, we probably want to feel tired at the end of those repetitions. So again, do we need something nearby just to take a break? With flexibility style exercise, things could be a little different. In those exercises, we tend to want to set up a position or set up our bodies in a certain shape and be able to hold it in a comfortable way. So maybe we need some different supports there. When it comes to balance exercise, again, this is another category where what's going to be just right challenge for you is different from someone else. So maybe you do need something nearby in case you are challenged with your balance. Some other specific kind of exercise activities, some of these have a kind of a feel of being a class style exercise. If we're doing it at home, maybe we need a little bit more space. Maybe we just need to adjust something in the room so that we have what we need. Maybe there's some props, a pillow, a support, a blanket, a strap that might be helpful. So just giving consideration to the type of exercise is going to help us figure out what we need, and kind of leads us to the third kind of general consideration, and that's the environment at home. And the most relevant question there is space. And where could you have the space to do the exercise that you have in mind? Sometimes the most comfortable space we have in the house is not the most ideal space for exercise. So sometimes we have to just consider alternatives. Maybe this is a stretch in the kitchen near the sink. Maybe you have a hallway where you know you'd have enough space to operate. Maybe this is part of the garage that you use. However, with the way things have been going lately, do you ever just feel like your space is full, or your home seems tiny, or you just don't have the space that you wish you had? Well, in this situation, we're just going to do the best that we can. This picture on the bottom is a man in France who was scheduled to run a marathon in March, which was canceled. In his apartment, he has a balcony which is 23 feet long, and he ran the marathon on the balcony, just back and forth. So we know the way things are going these days, we don't expect anything to be perfect. We're just going to do the best we can with what we have. When you have an idea of the space that's available or what's appropriate for your exercise, could you consider within that space, what's the surface? And for the most part, what we mean by that is the floor. And you just want to consider what is the floor like? What is that surface? Especially, how does it relate to the footwear you might be wearing? For example, maybe you have hardwood floor that has a tendency to be a little slippery, but you have your sneakers on while you're doing your exercise, so that's not going to be an issue. Maybe you have a carpet that's very plush and it feels better for you to be barefoot on that style of surface. Surface can also be related to any support surface you might use for that exercise. For example, say the kitchen counter or the wall or the door frame. So you just want to consider what surface is available to you within the space you're talking about. And when it comes to surface, definitely want to have some caution here. You really want to check the surface, especially the floor, for anything that could be surprising or anything that could get in your way. You want to check that before you start exercising, and certainly clear anything out of your way that you need to. Especially want to check areas, say the kitchen sink is an area where you do exercise, but someone just finished the dishes and now there's water. So you want to just keep those things in mind as you're exercising at home. Exercising at home may also bring some need for modifications. And again, this is going to depend on the person and the space that you have at home. Sometimes we have exercises that are based on the floor, and that's how the exercise was designed. But at home, do you have the space for that? Do you have a surface that's comfortable? And is the floor a space that's safe for you? Can you get down and back off the floor safely? Often floor-based exercise could be done laying down in bed. Now the bed is soft and squishy, so that does make a little more of a challenge in terms of firmness of the surface, but maybe it's more appropriate for you to be able to get on and off the bed a little safer than on and off the floor. Same idea with exercises that are designed to use the floor. Say, for example, you can see someone doing a push-up on the floor. Well, if it's not really safe or available for you to have that much floor space, you can do the same style exercise against the counter. And there's other modifications that can be made. We just want to keep this in mind for exercises in different positions. Same idea with exercises that either use the chair for the exercise or perhaps the chair as a support system for an exercise in a different position. Major question is the chair sturdy? So we don't want to use anything that's going to move on its own or anything that would move unexpectedly. So that's out when it comes to home-based exercise. Maybe your chair is a significant part of your exercise. This is a picture from our Be Active and Beyond book that I'd like to mention a little bit later. That's available to everyone for free with some exercise pictures. Maybe you have a very sturdy chair and that works for the exercise, but maybe the chair itself might slide on the surface where you have it. So you might consider arranging the chair such that it's pushed up against something so there's no chance it could slide on the surface. And again, sometimes the chair isn't necessarily part of the exercise, but it is a support, perhaps as you transition from different positions. Maybe you're using it as a balance support. So you just want to make sure the chair is sturdy and there's no chance it's going to move on you unexpectedly. When it comes to standing exercises, of course, there's quite a variety. And sometimes a standing-based exercise is designed to have you hold on. You can see the picture of the gentleman here in the blue shirt. Again, this is a picture from our Be Active booklet. He's doing a stretch and standing, and it's appropriate for him to be holding on to the wall. So in this situation, you just want to make sure you have a sturdy support situation that you can hold on. Some other standing-based exercise involve moving through space. Say, for example, you're doing a lunge style exercise and you're moving a couple paces forward, backward. Do you have the space for that? Are you transitioning perhaps from a room down a hallway? You just want to take all that into consideration. For balance-based exercise, again, this is a category of exercise where the level of challenge has to be just right for you. With balance exercises, often we expect this to be quite a challenge. That's why we're recommending it. So this is just an example of a corner of a room. The first picture just shows a corner with no person, no furniture. And here you can see the person is standing with their back against the corner. So it gives her two sides perhaps to hold on to for balance. Sometimes people can even put a chair or some object in the front. For this style exercise, if your balance was being challenged and you needed to hold something for support, what could you hold? Now, in some cases, you may not need that much, maybe something that's nearby or a single chair that's by your side. And then for some style balance exercises, the goal is to really work on that balance. Something that might be right near you might get in the way. So again, this depends on what's right for you and the level of challenge that's right for you. When it comes to exercising at home, distractions are probably inevitable. However, if we expect them, we can plan to manage them and keep everyone safe. If you're exercising at home, maybe people who are in the house with you feel distracting or disturbing your concentration, but perhaps if they're aware this is your exercise time, you can kind of minimize that. When it comes to pets, you know your animals. Sometimes your exercise movements attract them and it feels like playtime or time for them to get involved. And maybe that's fine. You just don't want any surprises. So perhaps this is a time the animals could be in a different part of the home. Same idea with the phone. If it's an exercise time for you, maybe you consider putting your phone on silence, or at least if the phone does ring, you take your time and don't worry about racing for the phone. Same thing with delivery. We're getting a lot of deliveries lately. If it's something that can just wait, doesn't need your attention, there's no need to rush up from what you're doing or interrupt what you're doing. And just something to keep in mind at home. When it comes to online exercise, I know a lot of people were writing in that they've been using online exercise, and the APDA website under the COVID-19 section has some links to outstanding exercise classes that are available for us. And so this, perhaps some people are quite familiar with it. Maybe other people haven't tried it yet. So by online exercise, what we mean by that is this is usually something you're following and following on some sort of a device. Maybe it's your TV, could be your phone, your tablet, computer. And usually what that means is you're looking and listening at the class or at the instructor. I just want to acknowledge that that is a little different, and sometimes that can be a source of distraction. So keep that in mind as you're working on these classes. If you are following something that's visual, if possible, it's ideal to place the device in front of you so you're looking straight at it. If possible, eye level is even more ideal. However, the class or the activity, it could involve you changing positions. So it might be that what starts out at eye level doesn't end up that way. It's also true that during some of these exercises, you yourself are moving or your head is moving, so you can't always see exactly what's going on the screen, and that's okay. That might be part of the exercise routine. The most important thing when it comes to online exercise is safety for yourself, and to recognize that the instructors speak as if they can see you, they're talking, they're trying to engage. Oftentimes this is a recording and they can't see you. Sometimes it's a Zoom-based call and maybe they can see you, but they might be watching, say, 10 or 12 other people. So often they can't see you clearly enough to observe your reactions. So just keep in mind that you're in charge of your body, certainly in charge of modifying any activities as needed. And oftentimes the exercise instructors are excellent at giving you modifications or kind of explaining how this could work in different positions. Certainly if the exercise doesn't feel good, don't do it. If something's causing pain, please stop. And certainly take rest breaks as needed. Sometimes with the exercise recordings, you can press pause and just take a break if that's what is needed for you. Of course, for this style exercise, just think about what you might need before you start. Again, the exercise instructors are usually very good at just explaining what's needed during the class. And anytime with the class that you're changing positions or having to go from one thing to another, take your time, get used to that, and do what works for you. I'll just kind of conclude a little bit with a quote. This is from the APDA. We know that there is strength and optimism, hope and progress. This is a quote here from Charles Darwin, actually, that it's not always the strongest or the most intelligent that survive, but the people or the ones who can best manage change. Certainly we're in a time of change, and we are here to help you manage it, especially related to your exercise. This is a link to the Be Active and Beyond book. This is, again, available at the APDA website. It's available to be downloaded for free. It's a booklet that kind of takes people through step-by-step different ideas for exercise. But we're also here for you. We are a team of physical therapists based at Boston University, but with the support of the APDA, we're here for everyone across the country. We have a phone number. Our email is rehab@bu.edu. Again, we're here for what can we help with? Maybe questions, maybe sometimes a talk like this has very broad scope, but you could use questions about or help with your individual questions. So it's something we want you to know we're here for you. Again, this is a rehab resource. So we are at Boston University, but we're here for everyone. So I think what I like to do now is just kind of get set up to introduce you to the speaker for next week. That's Tim Nordahl. But also like to take your questions through the chat room. So maybe have a few minutes to write a chat and just introduce you to Tim just for a moment.
Hi everyone, my name is Tim Nordahl, and I'll be doing the presentation next Thursday. So it'll be Thursday instead of Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So the talk I'll be giving will be about how to get the most out of a walking program, how you can keep up with or start a walking program now, and why that's a good idea or why that could be helpful. So looking forward to seeing everybody next week, and just wanted to introduce myself.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
And now what we'd like to do is take some of your questions if we can. I'm just going to back up a little bit to the exercise helpline page. And to manage questions, we have Christina Colon-Semenza, who is our speaker from last week and part of our team at Boston University, kind of to help us handle the questions.
Great. Thanks, Teresa, for that excellent presentation. And so now we're going to take questions. So feel free to add your questions to the little chat bottom at the bottom of your screen. If you just click on that, you can enter a question for Teresa to answer, or in the Q&A section on Zoom. So one question that we had submitted previously was, I've never done any exercise classes at home before. How can I get started?
That's a great question. And so I just want to encourage everyone, if this is something you think might appeal to you, that the links that are connected via the APDA website connect to actually some dance classes that might be interesting. And then the APDA chapter out of St. Louis has some excellent exercise videos of all different levels and different styles of exercise. And that might be a really nice place to get started. You can play those kind of at your convenience, can see what appeals to you. All of them are easily available.
Excellent. Thank you, Teresa. So another comment that we have here is just to have a reminder for everyone to know that there will be virtual walks occurring. So we've modified the way that we have our Optimism walks this year. So we're going to be having 4 virtual walks across the country, one in Seattle, one in Los Angeles, one in Vermont, and one in Massachusetts. All right. And so additionally, I just want to point out to participants that there is a link that has been added in the chat for you to be able to find some virtual classes that are listed through the APDA Parkinsons.org. So another question that we have is, how do I know what's the right exercise for me at home?
That's an excellent question. And it's the kind of thing that it's hard to generalize, but I will say, I wonder if a physical therapy visit is possible for the person asking the question. This is something that we want to individualize the exercise programs so it incorporates a comprehensive array of exercise. And again, that idea that it's just the right challenge for you. So in the case of Boston University, we are doing telehealth physical therapy, and it's physical therapy visits over the computer, but we have a chance to kind of individualize our interaction. If this is something that maybe we could even discuss on the exercise helpline, it's the kind of question we'd love to talk about, or even maybe send an email. But it's hard to get the just right exercise without kind of an individual coaching for you. So I would suggest maybe give us, maybe email us at the exercise helpline.
Excellent. Thanks, Teresa. So we have another question coming in. Someone's asking, I have symptoms of NOH. What exercises are best for me?
And that's definitely a consideration. It's the kind of thing we know we want to be careful with changing positions. It's the kind of thing that maybe being in a seated position for some of the exercises may be safer for you. Exercise modification, so maybe not necessarily having to get off and on the floor. It is the kind of thing that we want to personalize for you, but I would say minimizing position changes might be a way to start. Again, if that's something that even individually we can answer or talk about more, we're able to talk to people more individually on the helpline.
Excellent. Another question that came in was, my exercise routine at home doesn't feel like I'm working hard. I used to feel like I was working a lot harder when I was at my exercise class in person. How can I make my home exercise a bit more challenging?
Excellent, excellent question. We know that level of intensity with exercises we think is so helpful. So I would also suggest a variety of classes, especially some of the ones, again, we've mentioned linked to the APDA website. There's a number of classes at different levels of activity, and they're very clear about what kind of level they expect to be working at. So you may find a class that's a little more challenging for you. The other thing I'll say with some repetition-based exercise, sometimes more repetition creates a little more intensity, a little more fatigue, and sometimes that can be beneficial. But again, it's true. if online exercise classes are appealing to you, check on the APDA website. I think you might find some classes that bring a greater challenge.
Excellent. Okay, and so another question is here. I can't get my dad to think about exercise at home. He wants to wait until the gym opens again. What can I do to help support him to stay active now?
Oh, that's a good question. And it's understandable. Of course, it's understandable. In that case, what I might consider is this idea of the exerciser. I wonder, what is it about the gym that the father is missing so much? Is it the camaraderie? Is it the fact that that was a program he knew, and starting a different program seems too daunting? Maybe kind of investigate that question a little bit, because it's interesting. Many gyms are also doing some online classes. Some are easily accessible. And you might find some camaraderie from an online exercise class. It's true that you're in your house, perhaps exercising by yourself, but the way the class interaction is, you feel like you're with the teacher, and you almost feel like you're part of the class. So I would maybe investigate why he's so hesitant.
That's a great answer. I know, Teresa, something that I've been doing with my mom at home is we've been FaceTiming and doing 20 minutes of exercise together so that we can see each other and go through the exercises. Another consideration might be, is the change just too hard to manage? And can he start with a very small goal at home? Like, hey, Dad, how about just trying, 5 minutes of marching in place every day, or some small, easy, achievable goal to increase his confidence that he can do this at home.
You're so right, Christina, and that just so much what you talked to us about last week is so true. We can build from these small goals, and something that feels good, or if you're dancing in the house for a minute with his favorite song, anything along those lines, I think would feel appealing and just feel like it would help us move.
And it looks like we can take one more question. We have one here that says, I'm a Parkinson's disease support group manager. How can I keep my group up and moving?
Oh, what an excellent question. Yes. So again, I wonder, in your community, what resources may be available to people? Again, online-based classes, people do have to have a way to access the classes. So sometimes that's just not the way for everyone. Is it the kind of thing that you could be on the phone with different people? Is it the kind of thing that even a conference phone call might help? It does make such a difference to stay in touch. To see people online like this can be such a boost. I wonder, even just an email group or email chat for the support group, how could that work? But you're right, something that creates that group feel, because that is what everyone's looking for these days.
Yeah, thanks, Teresa. That has me wondering, even if the support group maybe in the past was communicating via email, and maybe the transition to Zoom might feel like too large of a goal to accomplish, could it be that you as a support group manager could together set up a group goal so that the support group as a group says, okay, let's all try to do a 10-minute walk this week. And then they can all chat about it via email, that yes, I was able to achieve my goal this week, or no, I had this challenge. What did you do to address it? So that it's the same community, the same mode of communication. Maybe that's an easier lift to keep people supported through exercise and movement.
Definitely agree. Yes.
Okay, well, I think that we were able to address most of the questions today, Teresa, so it looks like we can wrap things up.
That's great. I want to thank everyone for their kind attention and supporting us with these webinars. I would love to see you next week. Just want to remind everyone, as Tim said, we will be coming to you on Thursday next week, Thursday at 1 o'clock. That's Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone.